All right, I am looking forward to getting started today. Again, we are using a custom-built halftone web component. And the original code, the experiment, was originally created by our special guest, Dmitry Baranovsky. The actual web component was wrapped up by that machine over there called the Web Componentron. Now, before we see what this all is, I think we should understand what a halftone pattern actually is. Just get a feel what it looks like before we dive in and see what Dimitri did. Now, I'm going to crack open Photoshop. I have an image right on my desktop. Here it is. Very crystal clear here. I'm going to add pixelate color halftone. And I want to crank this value all the way up to 20 because I want to exaggerate this effect. I want to showcase what a halftone looks like stylistically. And look at this. Lots of overlapping colored circles here. We can zoom in. And as we zoom in, we lose all semblance of what this image should be. We can't recognize this anymore. But as we zoom out, it starts to look more and more like a person. And this is very reminiscent of, if you've ever seen comic books or newspapers from like 100 years ago, you'd see a lot of this halftone pattern. I'm sure Dimitri can explain this a lot better than I, but this is super interesting. So now let's take a look at what Dimitri built as his experiment. Now, this experiment is on something called Observable HQ. So that's observablehq.com. If you're familiar with the data visualization tool D3JS, it was built by the same person that built Observable. D3 is a great data visualization tool. Observable is a great way to showcase data visualizations that you've built. And this is exactly what Dimitri did. If you think about an image like this, an image is made up of pixels, and those pixels are data, and we can visualize those pixels in different ways, and this is exactly what Dimitri did. So here it is, that same image again that we had in Photoshop. We can adjust spacing between those circles, make them bigger, and we kind of start losing the sense that it's a person anymore as we get bigger and bigger. We can also change the pattern type. We can go to hexagons, maybe we can go to diamonds. So this is all really super interesting. And now I'm really curious to see what our web componentron built for us based on this. So right away, let's start with the code. Every good web component should have a demo page, right? So let's scroll all the way down past all these controls. And now at the bottom here, we have something called halftone-svg. This is a DOM element. It's not like any DOM element you've ever seen before because it's custom built for us. It's a web component. It goes right on your page. This is great. And I'm sure you've never seen a shape type attribute before. This is a custom control of our web component as well. Let's look at this demo page in action. So same controls as Dimitri's experiment. We can change the distance between those shapes. Look at that. We can change the shape type to maybe triangles, to diamonds. This is pretty cool. We can also change the shape color here. And we can also change the image. So I'm going to choose the ISS space station. Here you can make it out still in red. Now the interesting thing about this web component is that it accepts slots. This is cool. Normally, what would happen if you had a web component like this and you wanted to put a child element, like a div inside, the shadow root of the web component prevents you from ever seeing this child. You never see this div, except for the case where we can use slots. In our web component, we have a special function where we create a background slot. We control the position a little bit to make it overlap and stack up with these different layers. We then add it to the shadow root. So we're making this slot available to whoever wants to use it out in the outside world. So because that exists, we can now put a div in there. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And this div is going to serve as our background image. So let's reload our demo. And you won't notice too much right away, but now we can choose a background color. And so there's our background, and we can also choose that shape color. We're going to choose an ugly green and red here just to showcase everything. Now the red you see here is just that div element shining through inside the slot. Now the cool thing about slots is that, again, we have control over this. So I want to make it a little better than a background color. What I want to do is I want to assign a pattern to it instead. So I'm going to copy this image address from a pattern I found online. And I'm just going to type this in. I'm going to assign it a background image. And now let's reload our experiment. And there we go. We can do whatever we want with this slot within the confines of what the web component is designed to do, of course. But here we can just put whatever we like in here. In fact, let's put a big header in here just to show that it can be done. And this is going to look really weird and as it is designed, but you can see right away, you can see, hi, this is a slot. This is our big H1 tag right here. So we can work with whatever we want to put in there. I do like the background color though, as is. Now, as we've seen this custom function here, we should probably scroll up and preview the rest of the component. Observed attributes, these are the properties that the web component watches and reacts to changes from the attributes. And then, of course, part of the web component API, we have a connected callback, we have an attribute changed callback. But the rest of this stuff is pretty custom, though. It's custom to building this halftone pattern, and you'll notice there's no libraries in here whatsoever. It's just a pure vanilla web component that we can work with in our main application that we're going to be building today. Now, one thing I really like about this experiment is that, yes, it is a halftone pattern. You can overlay it over other things, have nice background patterns and colors. But the cool thing is that it's an SVG. And what's cool about that is we can actually download this as an SVG, and then we can load this SVG back into our browsers, and you can see this pattern, which is fine. It's what we've seen in the component itself. It's a saved image for us now, but this image is SVG, so it's infinitely scaling now. So I can zoom in as much as I want, and these circles are all going to be super crisp, no matter what resolution I prefer. That's the magic of SVG, and this is a pretty cool feature of Dimitri's experiments to wrap this all up as SVG. Now, one thing I really like about this experiment is that there's a lot of complexity inside. You know, Dimitri, he did a lot of math, algorithm work, pixel processing. This is all hard stuff, and we don't have to worry about any of that. We just have a web component we can put on our page and use in a UI of our choice. We can start building UI around this, just like we did on this demo page right here. And one of the last very cool things I'll show you is, because we're in complete control of our code, and we're in complete control of how we use this web component, we can start changing out images with JavaScript, with code, with our UI that we're going to build. But we can also change out images super fast, and fast enough to actually use our webcam. And so here I am, hi from inside my halftone web component. So this is really cool. We can still use all the same features. We can still change shapes, spread things out, do colors, do a background color. So this is great. I'm excited to build an application with this. I will make this a little bit better of a color and say goodbye until the next segment, until we start building our application.